Okay, greetings everyone. Joseph Varghese here, rulesforsuccess.com. I'm beyond excited because today our guest is Bob Burg. Bob, somebody I met many years ago, way back in 2007, he's had a huge impact on my life to the point where I don't even know if he's aware of some of the shifts, choices I've made out of reading The Go-Giver, the impact that it's positively had. And I'll go into it very shortly. Bob, how are you today?
I'm good, Joseph. Great to be with you. Great
Excellent.
to catch up after so long.
Yes. You're one of the most giving speakers at an event I attended back in 2007 called the World's Greatest Marketing Seminar. I bought your package, and that package, I think it's just prior to The Go-Giver, which your co-author came out.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Just prior to it. And then it's been re-released again, expanded edition in recent years, which I have that too as well. The Go-Giver, for all of you in the audience, The Go-Giver is an extraordinary book. And it covers some age-old principles that the way Bob and his co-author, John, share the story, it has you listen, it has you absorb the lessons, stay engaged. And it had an impact on my life in a very extraordinary way. I grew up in an atmosphere of people contributing, adding value, the nature of tithing. I'd read books about tithing. I went through a course called the 4 T's about tithing, treasures, things, and more. Read a book called Karmic Management that my co-author, my co-leader of the Near Power team had recommended. However, it was Bob's book, The Go-Giver, that had me make shifts in my life, particularly during a point in my life where I was in crisis. And out of really embracing the concepts, the teachings of this book, opportunity came my way in a very huge way. And I'll touch on that shortly. So Bob, the Go-Giver is, like, I imagine it's part of your legacy to the world. You've impacted tens of millions of people over the years with this book, the community, the revolution it's created. Before I go into my story for that, because I feel it's very important, what stirred you to write a book about giving, entrepreneurs giving, people giving? What stirred you to create that or co-write that?
Well, years before, in the early 90s, I'd come up with my first book, Endless Referrals. Subtitle was Network Your Everyday Contacts into Sales. And it was basically a how-to manual where the target was really entrepreneurs and salespeople who they knew they had a great product or service. They were proud of it. They knew it brought fantastic value to their customers and clients, but they may not have felt comfortable or confident in going out into their local areas and building the kinds of relationships that would cause people to want to do business with them directly and or refer them to others. So that was basically Endless Referrals. And the premise was that all things being equal, people will do business with and refer business to those people they know, like, and trust. So I'd had that book out for a while and a couple other ones after that, but I'd always enjoyed the idea, the thought of doing a parable around this one. I'd always enjoyed reading business parables since I'd gotten into sales. So whether it was Og Mandino's Greatest Salesman in the World, Klassen's Richest Man in Babylon, the 1 Minute series by Doctors Blanchard and Johnson. And, throughout the years, there were wonderful, fantastic parables. I always felt a connection with them, with the authors, with the stories, with the characters. Thought, wouldn't it be great if we could take the basic know, like, and trust premise of Endless Referrals and turn that into a parable? So in coming up with the title, it was really just a matter of asking what is the basic element of that person, that entrepreneur or salesperson who's able to very quickly and sustainably create and develop those know, like, and trust relationships. And what it comes down to is that they're givers. They're always looking to give value to others. So coming up with the name The Go-Giver, fairly simple. But it was when I reached out to John David Mann, who was the editor-in-chief of a magazine I used to write for, who in his niche at that time was known as a brilliant writer and author, which I soon came to see he is, plus great guy. I thought, wow, it would be fantastic to co-author this with him, and with him really being the lead writer and storyteller.
Yes.
And so fortunately he said yes to it. That's really what inspired the book itself. It was taking the basic principles of endless referrals, putting it into a parable, but then coming along and meeting someone who I knew could do a fantastic job with doing that.
And when we do things in partnership, great things come about. So it was a great partnership, you and John. I think he's also written The Go-Giver for Marriages, which
he and his wife Anna, not Anna, wrote a wonderful book. So John and I have written 4 books in the Go-Giver series. 3 of them are parables, and then he and Anna just wrote one called The Go-Giver Marriage, which is half parable, half how-to, and it's getting great reviews. So
I'm excited about tapping into that. I am married now, so I'll give you a little story here about this. The parable is very meaningful for me, particularly because parable is about a character named Joe. And my name is Joseph, right? Joe also, and equating stratospheric success. So when I got the book, it took me a little while to decipher the lessons. I got the audio version for it initially. Mm-hmm. It's Joe and stratospheric success. But when I heard it, it just hit me like a brick, because it related to me. I felt like Joseph. Mm-hmm. And then my business that I started 25 years ago is called Stratus Net Solutions, right? Like Stratus. And
that's right.
In 2012, I was going through a crisis where I was on the brink of going bankrupt. I was considering going bankrupt, and my car was towed. Hurricane Sandy just hit. And I listened to the book, The Parable, and I said, you know what? I'm going to go all in here and find as many opportunities to give as possible. And for that quarter, so basically Q4 of 2012, so much happened for me. And like after Hurricane Sandy, just helped my team of people. We were helping people. We actually have a nonprofit called the Bass Brigade in New York City, Bass Brigade, a 501c3. We went all out. We built a Queens branch to help people in Queens. We delivered food to the Rockaways. My business partner, one of his best friends, lost a son in the Sandy Hook massacre shooting. We went all out to build a team of leaders in the world of Tony Robbins to bring resourcefulness to these parents who lost their children, and much more. There's so many other aspects of giving. Every opportunity that I'm going to go all in, be a go-giver this quarter. And as things progressed that quarter, some miracles happened in my life. And I really attributed to these ideas, these factors. And one of them being that as the fall completed, I went on a blind date. Someone recommended going on a blind date. And that blind date, the conversation was December 21st. We went on our first date on December 26th. 2 months later, we got engaged. 7 months later, we got married. That's one thing. I got a consulting project for a company called Power Consulting. I was their chief marketing officer that helped pay for the wedding. When I got proposed to my wife, to Shirley, in February, the next few days later, somebody offered me $11,000 for one of my domains, profitology.com. And like all these things started coming, but specifically out of having this mindset of giving, right? Just getting out of my own ego, finding ways to add value, to connect people. So this book has changed my life. And I've actually, for over all these years, it's close to a decade now, I've been looking forward to the opportunity of reconnecting with you, acknowledging you, of course, and being able to perhaps do this podcast. So here we are, some close to 10 years later.
That's right.
Since that moment. So thank you for that.
For sharing that. Thank you.
Of course. Yeah, of course. And for those who haven't read the book, what are the 5 keys to stratospheric success?
Yeah. So the keys themselves, laws, principles, what have you, are what we call the laws of value, compensation, influence, authenticity, and receptivity. The law of value is all about making the experience with the other person from the initial contact, and whether it's inbound, whether it's outbound, whether you're meeting them in person somewhere or online, from the minute you meet that person through the relationship building process, through the follow-up, follow through, the sales process, the referral process. It's always bringing so much value to that person in terms of what they are looking for. And, when you can do that, when they finally become a customer of yours, whether it's, a week or a month or a year or 2 months later, whatever it happens to be, they feel so great about having done business with you that they've received much more in value than what they've paid, while you, of course, have also made a very, very healthy profit. And so, when we can do that, then, we really have a person who is not only a customer for life, but someone who really wants to tell others about us. Yes. And we call it being your personal walking ambassador.
Amazing. I'm reminded of a quote: "The memory of bad quality lasts longer than the shock of high prices." So
that's right. And we're big believers in being on the upper end of the price scale, because we want people to sell on high value. And if you're going to sell on high value, the price is going to be higher. The worst thing we can do, not the worst always, it depends on the business itself and the model, but basically, generally speaking, when you sell on low price, you're a commodity. When you sell on high value, you're a resource.
Amen.
And that's what we want people to do, and so forth. Law number 2 is the law of compensation. This says your income is determined by how many people you serve and how well you serve them. So where law number 1 is all about the focus on the value you're providing the other person, law number 2 is about all the number of lives you're able to impact with the exceptional value you provide. And to the degree that you touch the lives of more and more people with the exceptional value, that's the degree that you will be rewarded monetarily. Law number 3 is the law of influence, which says your influence is determined by how abundantly you place other people's interests first. Now, this one sounds counterintuitive when you first hear it. Though when you think of it, the greatest leaders, top influencers, and the most sustainably successful, highest money earning salespeople, this is simply how they run their lives and conduct their businesses. They're always looking out for the interest of the other person. Now, one thing I just want to qualify and clarify, if I may, because I think it's easily misunderstood and it's very important, is that when we say place the other person's interests first, excuse me, we certainly don't mean you should be anybody's doormat or a martyr or self-sacrificial in any way. Absolutely not at all. It simply, as Joe, the protege, learned in the story from several of the mentors, the golden rule of business, of sales, as we were talking about before, is that all things being equal, people will do business with and refer business to those people they know, like, and trust. Now, Joseph, and this, the fastest, most powerful, most effective way to elicit those feelings toward you in others is to genuinely move from an I focus or me focus to an other focus, looking for ways to, as Sam, one of the mentors, shared with Joe, to make your win all about the other person's win.
Yes.
And so that's the law of influence. Now,
I think people often listen to what's in it for me, oftentimes in the background. So at least our audience, that's something I was taught by a mentor many years ago. And so being able to put them first and really put them in the forefront is really important. I often before I get on stage, I often donate to a charity just to get my ego out of the way. So I'm always focused on the nature of giving, adding value first.
Yeah. And so, and it's important that people know this is not just some kind of nice idea that sounds like this is actually very realistic and very rational to think of, because, and I say this whenever I speak at sales conferences, nobody's going to buy from you because you have a quota to meet. They're not going to buy from you because you need the money, and they're not even going to buy from you just because you're a really nice person. They're going to buy from you because they believe that they will be better off by doing so than by not doing so. And when you think about it, that's the only reason why anybody should buy from you or from me or from anyone else. For us to expect differently would not be dealing with truths, would not be dealing with an understanding of human nature. Now, this is good, though, because it means it's great for that entrepreneur or salesperson who really, truly has the heart to serve others. because it's only to the degree that you're able to communicate value through your focus on them and through what they need, what they want, what they desire. It's to that degree that they are going to feel good about you. They're going to know, like, trust, respect you, and want to do business with you. And that's why the focus must be on them. It's also why John David Mann and I say that money is simply an echo of value. It's the thunder, if you will, to value's lightning, which means nothing more than that the focus on value. The value comes first, right? The money you receive is simply a natural result of the value you've provided. So that's really the law of influence. Now, the law number 4, the law of authenticity, says the most valuable gift you have to offer is yourself. And in this part of the story, Deborah Davenport shared a very important lesson, and that is all the skills in the world, the sales skills, technical skills, people skills, as important as they are, and they are all indeed very, very important, they're also all for naught if you don't come at it from your true, authentic core. But when you do, when you show up as yourself day after day, week after week, month after month, people feel good about you. People feel comfortable with you. People feel safe with you. And why wouldn't they? They know who they're getting. And this is so very important, because this kind of consistency, this showing up as yourself, it really is what cements that trust. Because people, they want to, in Dr. Robert Cialdini, in his magnificent book, Influence, Science and Practice, he pointed out what he called the law of consistency, that people want to themselves feel as though they're consistent. Okay. But we absolutely insist upon someone else who we're dealing with being consistent.
We want to experience congruence all the way through.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so, this is so important. Now, there's another aspect of authenticity that I think is important to discuss, because these days I've noticed that authenticity has sort of taken on a kind of a strange type of meaning. And I guess we see this on social media, but we see it everywhere now. And that is that authenticity now almost seems to be that you don't have any boundaries. You just show up however you want. You do and say whatever you want. If people don't like it, that's too bad. That's authentic. And I don't think that's necessarily true. I think it's sometimes obnoxious. I don't think it's necessarily authentic. This is like the person who says, well, I have anger issues and I yell at people and that's just the way I am. And if I were to act any differently, that wouldn't be authentic of me. That's baloney. That's absolute malarkey.
It's like going on a rant, basically. And I mean, doesn't really honor the observer, the people watching.
It simply means
more noise.
Exactly. It simply means this person has an authentic problem.
Exactly.
That they need to authentically work on, right, in order to become a better, higher, more effective, authentic version of themselves. So, personally, I define authenticity as simply acting congruently with your values. If you're doing that, you're authentic. But you can still be polite, you can still be kind, you can still speak appropriately in the right situations, and do all those other things. So yeah, I mean, I would like to see people look at authenticity as, more as showing up as yourself, and still understanding that we're part of part of society.
Yes.
And that we need to look toward other people and work with them in the way they want to be worked with as well.
Yes.
And law number 5 is the law of receptivity. And the law of receptivity says the key to effective giving is to stay open to receiving. And this means nothing more than understanding that, we breathe out. We also have to breathe in. It's not one or the other. We breathe out carbon dioxide. We breathe in oxygen.
Great metaphor.
We breathe out, which is giving. We breathe in, which is receiving. Giving and receiving are not opposite concepts, though you'd never know it from the messages that we get from the world all around us. We are just this. Our world is absolutely filled with anti-prosperity messages, and you kind of see it everywhere. And for many people, it's a combination of upbringing, environment, schooling, news media, certainly social media, right?
Yes.
Television shows, movies. There's really that, that kind of that ethos that, well, if you've made a lot of money, you did so nefariously or by nefarious means, or you took advantage of someone, or you made your money on the backs of others. Now, it's a big world. There's people who do lousy things, but by and large, for most of us, okay, who no one's forced to do business with us.
Right.
We haven't bought any special favors from government, any special legislation that allows us to right. No, the only way that 99% of us in this world, or in this country at least, or wherever there's a basically free market system in place, the only way 99% of the people can become wealthy is by providing exceptional value to others that other people choose to partake in, right?
Yes.
And so yeah, it's giving and receiving are actually two sides of the very same coin, and they work in tandem. So it's not a matter of, are you a giver or a receiver? No, you're a giver and a receiver. But what is that the given comes first. This is universal law.
Yes.
It's natural law. It's laws of nature, both human and physical nature. We plant before we harvest.
Yes.
We sow before we reap. We give before we receive. That's how it works. And when you do that, and you've given effectively to others, and then when it comes to you, we've got to be able to allow that and accept it with gratitude and kind of get past the negativity out there in terms of which really plants so many horrible anti-prosperity seeds in people's minds.
Exactly. Yeah. Very, very well said. Very, very inspiring. I guess I'm curious, what are some strategies you recommend toward people breaking out of, I think people are being hypnotized continuously as far as social media noise out there, and to receive these timeless, age-old principles, it takes something to pause, to do all those things, to be able to get out of our ego, to be able to add value, to deliver, to do all those things. Then, of course, as you mentioned, breathing, to receive. What are some things that people can do in this day of, say, COVID, where there's so much noise, and they're sort of saying the amount of noise, social media, it's almost doubling every couple of years. What do you recommend?
Well, regarding social media, no one forces us to put it on. So to turn it on. So we have control over that. And there's nothing wrong with social media. I'm on social media a lot. But I make a concerted move to keep away from the negativity. And not that you can always do that, but once you see it's out there, and once you see you can move your focus somewhere else. And I think we've got to make sure that we stay conscious of not getting so sucked into it that it controls us instead of us controlling it. I think that we need to make prosperity a study, a proactive study. I think looking up people like Randy Gage, the late Bob Proctor, people like T. Harv Eker, people like Sharon Lechter, people like Ellen Rogan, people like Ken Honda, David Nagel. There's so many great people out there who write and speak and teach and blog and do videos and other, have books on this topic that, my belief is they need to be studied, because the garbage comes in all the time.
Yes.
But we have a choice to proactively bring in the good stuff.
It would be great if we had like a college or a school where, specifically before even people start college, they invest into learning these lessons from all those authors or speakers, yourself, for example.
Sure.
That would be like pre-college. Like, I wish I did that before I went to engineering school. If someone sat down with me and shared those aspects of wisdom, particularly around compound growth as it applies to all areas of life.
Me too.
Curiously for you, so if you had to go back in time, or knowing what you know now, and you had the opportunity, let's say, of mentoring or giving advice to your 18 or 21-year-old self, what would you tell your younger self?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think there's so much we can learn from that. And whenever I'm asked that question, I had for years given one specific answer, which I still agree with and which I'll share, but I'd also add to that. The first one, and this is personal only because of who I was, I'd go back to my 18-year-old self and say, young Bob Burg, shut up. Just listen, stop talking so much because you think you know it all and you don't. Because I thought I knew it all and I didn't. Right. And so that was the first thing I would say to myself. I would also advise my younger self, and I'd advise anybody to make a study of human nature, because this is what you need to know in order to make your way through life. Who are you dealing with? You're dealing with other human beings, and everyone's an individual, of course, but there are certain general psychological characteristics, feelings, and behavioral traits that are subject to all humans. That's human nature, right?
Yes.
And once we understand that, now we're able to really form patterns a lot easier.
Yes.
We're able to kind of know the basic reasons why people say and do the things they do. And it puts us in a position to be able to serve them and serve ourselves in a way that really benefits all involved.
Amazing. Yeah. I think it's good to get grounded in that. A lot of things happen hormonally also as shifts happen. I remember when I was 18, I was 19 to testosterone run. And I think to be grounded in those values, those lessons, particularly around human nature, would be useful. And I'm grateful for the conversations I had personally before that point that helped me to kind of pause those moments before I made some big mistakes.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Like great lessons there. Great lesson. And is there anything else you'd add to that? You mentioned there was a second thing you would add to that.
The second one was the human nature
Human
aspect, learning that. The first one was that I really needed to stop thinking I knew what was.
How do you define success, Bob? What does success mean to you?
Well, success to me is a genuine and ongoing feeling of happiness, based on having done one's best to live up to their potential. So that's to me an overview. It's because success is happy. If you're happy, you're successful. Okay. And happiness is what? That's a genuine and ongoing feeling of joy and peace of mind. I think you become happy by living congruently with your value system. Okay.
Yes.
But I think success is that feeling of happiness, and it's based on having done your best to live up to your potential. So whatever it is you're trying to do, and in whatever area, whether we're talking about financial, physical, spiritual, mental, emotional, social, relational, to the degree that you've done your best to live up to your potential in that area, that's the degree to which you're successful.
What are a couple of things you take on each day, perhaps in your morning, your priming process each day, that helps you to step into that state of success? Because not all of us wake up, we feel successful. Sometimes, at least in my case, sometimes there's lack of sleep, factors that are there with family, the kids are sick, whatnot. What are some things that you do on a consistent basis, maybe rituals, routines in the morning, that help you to solidify, awaken to, or step into that feeling of success for yourself?
Well, the first thing I do upon arising is say a prayer of gratitude, but I'd say that I don't necessarily have any morning rituals in that regard, but I read a real lot. I really enjoy reading. I learn a lot from it. And to me, that helps me feel as though I'm continuing to grow, and, growing helps me feel more successful.
Excellent. And one of the greatest things for me is being able to interview extraordinary leaders, authors like yourself, to go beyond the reading, to actually hear and speak to you as well. Also getting the dialogue for me is really the pathway toward evolving that even further. So it's excellent, incredible. I know we're approaching time. Any final words, anything else you'd like to add? You do have, am I correct? You have the GoGiverCommunity.com. And then also you own Burg.com. It's your site, your kind of cornerstone to who you are. Anything else you'd like to share with our members, listeners?
No, we invite everybody to come to the site if you'd like. Burg.com, Burg.com, and the GoGiverCommunity.com is our online community. So that's we've had a lot of fun building that.
What's your legacy look like? Your legacy is this, of course, the community. I mean, I shared it through that impacted me a decade ago, going through it, making choices, decisions that have since probably impacted thousands of people in my world. What does your legacy look like for the next, let's say, 30, 40 years with the Go Giver and everything else you're up to in the world? And which is extraordinary because we all need to learn how to really give more intentionally. What does the
Well,
legacy look like?
I appreciate that. Well, we have, Kathy, my business partner, and I have, aside from the community, which to me, that to the degree we grow that's the degree that we have people all over the world who are, involved with the message itself. We also have a team of certified Go Giver speakers and so forth. So, we're constantly building the brand, if you will,
Mhm.
and so forth. And we feel that's the best way to spread the message. I think with my legacy, if I have a legacy, it's probably going to be more in terms of the people skills aspect.
Hmm.
I try to carry on what I feel is my dad's legacy of interacting with people in such a way as to help build their confidence, to encourage, to make other people feel genuinely good about themselves.
Hmm.
And that's really what keeps me going.
Amazing. And that's my experience of you. Your posts and social media, your communications about lifting people up, leaving people better. Because it's in the Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, to the idea of leaving leaving individuals better than you found them. And that's my experience of you almost always. So thank you for that. Thank you for how you show up. Thank you for the contribution with the Go Giver, co-authoring that, the community you're building. Grateful to have you here on this podcast. And to access, for all of us in the audience, for all of you listening, you can access this interview at rulesforsuccess.com. We will also have a summary mind map and ways of contacting Bob, tapping into the gogivercommunity.com. So check it out. Go out there and engage, go out there and add value, go out there and be authentic, go out there and find ways to give because prosperity awaits you. Thanks so much, Bob.
Thank you.